told the client we're doing it, so
We gotta figure it out.
I hope we can.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to worry
About
about saying.
79%
Yeah.
sure.
You
That's
already
right.
told the client we're doing it, so you know,
I did caveat it a little bit, so.
yeah,
but-
I mean, it is very impressive.
Apparently, no table.
that it
Did you then say? Did you then say Anthony will have it done by?
Well, one of my biggest sellers is dust, actually. So it kind of depends on.
It is kind of fun the number of times.
Spikes. And I have a ton of food allergies, and those are causing
Time
out with
or
the
rain?
pollen. So it kind of depends on the pollen or the food, whether good or bad of the day. It's
a little off to go ahead and test it.
Keep like a chart. I can have a
A lot of things are
one
not.
chocolate, one
Well,
cherry.
but it's more like if I
Right.
wake up or go outside and I'm really, really stuffy and I haven't had any
But
food, then I know it's
it's
much
just a
pollen.
matter
If I've
of
eaten food
how bad
and it's food I don't normally
you
eat, but,
This
or
to
like
me,
it's
like,
usually mild and I have a really strong response, I'm like, okay,
you know,
that's
how
plus
compromised do you want it
versus
to
if
be?
if the pollen's really good and I've only had food and I'm
the
still having a
triangle
bad
works
reaction,
fast,
then
cheap.
it's gonna be food.
Well, 3
So it's
companies.
a bit of a guesstimation. The
Good.
problem with Texas is because
We
our growing
invited them.
season is so long, like
You
I'm
need to
allergic
watch
to
this.
all of the
Some
grasses.
ideas.
All of
Plant
them.
them.
And they're my highest too, and those are growing year round here. So it's kind of hard to
stuff.
escape that pollen.
They know what to ask you to
But
hire you.
I think
chromosome
like they
sensitive,
have
I
one.
don't know
Right,
if you've
exactly.
heard of that.
I want that.
It's a compound that they found in a plant that grows in the Mediterranean. It's been around since the 50s. It's incredibly benign, but it's a mast cell stabilizer. So what's awesome about it is like you can get a nose spray, you can get drops
We need to
for
get
eyes.
AI advanced
You also
where
can get prescription
when we
ones
have
where
an
you take
idea
it
for a
orally, but
feature.
like I can use the nose spray.
You
And
go
what that
and ask them,
does
it's like,
is
I
it
already
goes
did
in
it.
and it helps stabilize the mast cells.
I
Which is
predicted
a
that you would
completely
need it.
different way of handling allergic reaction
I
from
mean, at that point, why
histamine, which is
even
histamine granulated. And so I can kind of
Right.
microdose
Got tired of waiting.
throughout the day, not spray without any issues of having too much of a thing, essentially. And I can really help stabilize, especially if it's like sinus issues. And then if it keeps
I can
getting bad,
type
then I
that.
can also take an antihistamine, which will help.
Doesn't bleed.
But that's been really, really good. The
Standard
antihistamine's driving
one,
me
two,
so
all
bad.
this extra security
The
stuff.
chromosome,
Yeah.
I've got some in my bag before you
The
leave, I'll
office
show
load
you.
doesn't load until after the
Sure.
services is loaded, therefore FileMaker won't ever see it, so it won't load. Why does it, I'm sitting like,
Something I've been here.
This
I
side.
didn't even see it.
Doing well.
Could we just go ahead?
Good job.
Maybe.
Strong.
Like,
Fit.
in spirit of what we're doing? Sure. All right.
You ever had-
We'll get
Ready.
started with our
There we
pre-show.
go, let's make that.
I mean, basically, you're exposed to it for long enough.
Okay, everybody, we are going to start our pre-checks for the day. And the first thing we have is an ad for April, which doesn't have anything to do with us for today, but we want you to be here for April. So Chris, anytime you're ready to play that.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ron Glenn Cates of RGC Data, and we are proud to present next month on CWP Snippets, which is our flagship product. And what it is a WordPress plugin, not to be confused with a FileMaker plugin. This is a WordPress plugin that gets installed in WordPress, and it is a snippet plugin that allows you to create custom coded snippets in PHP, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and have that injected into your WordPress website. Unlike other snippet plugins, what makes CWP Snippets special is the fact that it comes packaged with all of the back-end connectivity with FileMaker through the Data API. So it handles all your token management, it handles all of your connectivity. It comes with a class of functions for your basic functions like create record, find records, all of that stuff. And then bundled with the plugin comes all of the templates for using those functions.
That sounded good, Chris?
Pretty cool.
A lot of energy.
All right, we got
He's
3
flying
minutes.
down. He's flying down.
Yes,
Yeah. Cool.
I'm flying them down, so.
Huh? So you're sponsoring next month, huh?
I'm not paying for lunch, but I'm paying for him to fly down.
Well, that sounds like sponsorship to me.
Trying to get Chris Conway to come down in September. And then
All right, welcome everybody here and everybody who is afar. Chris, you got me up there on the screen? Great. So we're doing some new things here today. I'm a professional performer, and when I perform things, I rehearse for hours and hours, and everything comes out great, and we've been doing some wonderful shows here, but sometimes we stumble a little bit. Technology gets in our way. So today, we're going to have just a little bit of a reset between each presenter. So it's slightly different. For the people on Teams or on YouTube, you get to see this live. The final recording won't have our little resets. So with that, see all this right here? Look at this, we're going in circles. We have an X. Do you need to hold your computer?
If I can find it.
Do you need,
Yes.
need to hold, would you like a little stand for your computer?
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we ready?
Wait. Would you want the mic stand? I didn't know you were coming up with the computer in hand.
No. Well. There we go.
Oh, I gotcha.
Okay, everybody, I'm Taylor Sharp. Welcome to the FileMaker Pro User Group, Dallas, Texas. Today is March. Okay, this is March 2026. We're glad to have all of you here in-house and all of the virtual people that are joining us. We are going to have an exciting presentation on FileMaker and MCP. If you don't know those acronyms, you will soon, so it'll be good and exciting. We just did an advertisement for next month's presentation about CWP snippets. So I don't know if you guys have ever had to, be a FileMaker developer like me, but you work with a company that's got some web developer and they always want to do something like in WordPress. Well, WordPress has all these templates and plugins and stuff, but it plays well with MySQL. It's not ever played well with FileMaker. Well, that's what Ron is going to come next month, show us how you can use WordPress to play well with a FileMaker database instead of a Microsoft SQL Server or a MySQL database. So anyway, that'll be exciting. So May, we have Dennis Burnham coming to talk to us about making merchant payments, credit card stuff. So he's got a new way to do it, supposedly cheaper, faster, whatever, simpler. Anyway, Dennis is a former member. Well, he's still a member here, but he attends us virtually. He moved away to Denver, but we still consider him a kind of a local anyway. So we have in June, Kate Waldhauser is going to be coming to speak to us. Violet Beacon, she's a Texan. She's going to come up from Southeast Texas and come join us, so we'll be glad to have her then. Our July meeting is going to be changed. I was going to do audit logging with Chris Conger. We're probably going to do that in September if he agrees to that. Then we're up to August. So if we're going to talk about August, Heather, wave Heather. Heather is going to be our presenter, and we look forward to have her then. Now, next announcement from Claris. Anybody know what the latest version of FileMaker Pro is? 22.0.5. Okay, it just came out. So if you're not on 5, hit the help, update, get updated. So the latest FileMaker Pro is out. I think it mostly just fixed some bugs, but that's certainly out. Claris is not doing an Engage this summer, so no big, FileMaker Developer Conference. However, there are a number of other ones out there. The one that I'm working with is the Full Access one. That's the one that's being done out kind of near San Francisco. It's kind of like the old Pause conferences. It'll be small, probably, 50 to 80 people type thing, but it should be a lot of fun. And the nice thing about it is when you pay for it, everything's included. Food, lodging, it's not like, you go to Engage and you pay a lot of money to go and then you have to pay a lot of money for a hotel and, that. The Full Access has everything. There's going to be a lot of presenters like we had last time, but one of the benefits is that conference is just within a few miles of the Claris headquarters, so invariably what you do is you have a bunch of the Claris engineering team shows up. So, and last year Ryan even came. I hope he'll come again this year. So if you want to schmooze with some of the, muckety mucks at Claris, they'll be there. Opportunity to hang out with them. So anyway, sign up for full access. I think at the end of the month, prices go up. So think about it. So look at your budget, see if you can do that. If you got a really big budget, they've got the one over in Melbourne next October. I think Engage U is going to be in Europe also in October. So, if you want to travel internationally, there are conferences. But if you want to do something local, we've got the full access one. Sign up for that. So, okay, Heather's got a question right here.
I just want to say, in addition to that, there's Elevate FM in Toronto.
The first week of June.
Right. Okay, I forgot about that. You're right. Toronto. So.
Could you repeat that?
Toronto, Elevate will be beginning of June,
It's the first week of June.
first week of June, yes. So that's coming up in Toronto. So that's another opportunity to attend. And are one of you guys speaking there or something? Heather is, okay. HIPAA? No. You haven't totally worn that out? Okay, well, she's an expert in many things, so. Okay, well, without further ado, we're gonna move on. Our next presenter or speaker is going to be Mike. Right? Come on up, Mike. We wanna hear our sponsorship here. Okay.
Nope, that's fine. I got the break. Come on. DX, look up.
Look up.
Let's get the mic in a slightly better.
Wow.
Say this, I forgot an announcement.
You forgot?
I have to interrupt him.
All
But a
right.
sneak one last announcement in.
I'll move
Go
here.
ahead. Step down.
Okay, reset guys in the video back there.
There you go. First.
Okay, reset number 3. And the last announcement we have, Hawk Air Conditioning is here with us today with two of their FileMaker developers, but their owner, CEO, whatever you are, Doug, and he's actually looking for a developer full-time in-house on location. So if you know any FileMaker developers that are looking for a job in-house on-prem type thing, Doug, wave. Doug is the guy to get, and they have a couple other FileMaker developers here, Stephen and Landon. Glad to have you guys. So check with them if you have anybody you can refer to them.
Okay. All right.
All right, now I'm going back.
Go ahead.
Get on my X.
Get on your mark.
On my mark.
Good. All right, Chris. Waiting for you guys. This is pretty awesome technology.
Oh, yeah. Starts with thank you, though.
Go ahead and scooch down there, Chris. You ready?
I'm ready.
Go for it.
Okay, thanks, Taylor. FileMaker and AI will get more intertwined over the next couple of years, and Harmonic is in the middle of this evolution. We will be unable to interact with an AI superintelligence at scale without it changing our personal, business, and psychological baselines. Our business customers want to take advantage of AI's transformative abilities in profitability, customer service, product quality, and quality of life. Taking control of AI will require secure on-site systems. Because in today's AI world, cloud costs are exploding, pricing is unpredictable, and data privacy risks keep growing. Why take these chances? Shared servers, huge exit fees, compliance headaches when there's a smarter way. Yes, zero weights, simple converged solutions with our Simple Start PE at the heart. Backed by over 25 years of expert system and networking engineering, building affordable, high-performance servers. Tailored for AI, using proven ZFS tools for snapshots, encryption, deduplication, and full data control. Compute, storage, and networking together perfectly, no cloud surprises. Low risk, high reward. 24/7 US-based support, guaranteed parts, no forced upgrades, systems that last. The reward is huge, true data sovereignty on your premises, predictable costs, faster AI workflows, and complete control over your most valuable asset, your data. Your secure, sovereign AI future starts here and is surprisingly affordable. And appreciate Harmonic. This is going to be a great presentation. Thanks.
Wasn't that nice? There we go. Ready, Chris?
Okay, and I am not seeing my presenter notes, so we're going to need to do what now?
We can see your screen down there.
Great, but no presenter notes. All right, I'm going to need those, so
You can just click on the play menu.
Yeah, it's mirroring.
oh, it's mirroring?
Yeah,
Okay.
stop mirroring and go back to.
Brian. There we go. Hopefully it remembered all of our settings from yesterday. Sweet. Oh yeah, that's what I want.
There we go.
That's what I like. That's what I need. All right.
Okay.
We ready? The tech crew ready? Got a thumbs up from the tech crew? All right, sounds good. All right. Welcome to FMPug March 2026. We are going to talk about the somewhat new Claris MCP product. Actually, what we're going to talk about is why do I care about the Claris MCP product? All right, here's the goals. I'm going to set the stage with answers to what is MCP, what is Claris MCP, how are we going to answer the question of why should you care? Next, Anthony is going to talk about how Harmonic uses MCP and other AI tools in our solutions. And finally, Brian is going to talk to you and walk you through a demo that we built that will hopefully show off the power of MCP, Claris MCP. Introductions. All right, my name is Matthew Monroe. I am one of the owners here at Harmonic, and my official title is Chief Technologist. Now, I don't actually know what that means, but what I do is I play with new toys. I break them, and if I like them, we use them in our solutions and sometimes write presentations on them. When I'm done, you will hear from Anthony. Anthony is our senior full stack engineer. That is a fancy title that basically means Anthony does all the things. In a given day, Anthony will have performed DevOps functions, helped QA various workflows, tested new FileMaker features, written new customer-facing code, launched Docker containers, scanned server logs for poorly written SQL statements, all while designing solutions in the back of his head to problems that we haven't even asked him to solve yet. Finally, you will hear from Brian. Brian is a FileMaker engineer, but he is also a Python developer, an LLM specialist, a prompt tinkerer. He is our chief ETS critic and a new feature prophet and evangelist. Okay, so let's start by taking a brief journey through some of the AI LLM topics that we presented in the past, because I think it is going to give some interesting perspective into why we think Claris MCP is going to be a game changer for how we deliver certain types of solutions. We keep using this phrase, game changer, and it is starting to get tired, but it is in fact a fact of life at this point. AI LLM integration is disrupting software development, and for us Claris developers, this is the latest piece. Harmonic's software philosophy has always been use the best tool for this solution. If the best tool is old school, we go old school. If new tech isn't fully baked, we go old school. If old school works but is really slow, we adopt the new tech. We don't push tech that we don't believe in, and we don't get paid to carry water for anybody's pet solution. As such, our AI LLM adoption has been deliberate and at a pace that doesn't threaten Harmonic's ability to deliver consistent, reliable solutions for our clients. So here's a brief, high-level summary through our journey thus far. Last May, we did a presentation on a new script step called Perform Semantic Find, which utilizes vector embeddings to allow a user to search for content in a given field. In a in the very imprecise, vague, minimal way that our users tend to use such things. It solves the "it should just know what I mean" problem. Also last May, we presented on the Perform SQL Query by Natural Language script step. This feature allows users to perform that same imprecise query without explicitly knowing where to look. It solves the "it should know what I mean" and "it should know where to look" problem. Last August, Alex presented on the Generate Response from Model script step. This allows users to ask an imprecise question about information that isn't really even in their database. They can chat with an AI agent, reformat their reports, or augment their data, all without leaving their solution. It solves the "it should take my data and use it to do my job for me" problem. Last September in South Carolina, we presented on utilizing local hardware, local LLMs, instead of using public models. It is important to our clients that they execute their acts of precision in a safe and secure manner. After all, in certain markets, moving your data into a public server isn't just merely a fireable offense, it may just be a prosecutable offense. This solves the "I did all of this and kept my job" problem. In November, we presented on how we might fine-tune a local model to execute its tasks in a way that are more compatible with your specific use cases. It solves the "yes, I know that word has 4 meanings, you should assume better" problem. Also, in November, we presented on the new RAG technology built into FileMaker Server that allows a user to chat with their own corporate documents. This is much more approachable than fine-tuning, and it solves the "that document was TLDR, but I want everyone to think that I read it" problem. And finally, last month, we presented on how to utilize most of what we've learned thus far to formulate a workflow to create Claris Studio forms, all without the manual labor. It solves the "Claris hasn't yet shipped the read my mind and create a form for me" feature problem. And now you are here. So thanks to Claris, we are now able to present on MCP. So what problem does this solve for us developers? What problems does it solve for our end users? Does it allow me to be more lazy yet still get more done? By the way, what the heck does MCP mean anyway? Model Context Protocol. That tells me almost nothing. What and who comes up with these AI acronyms? Allow me to get on a brief soapbox here for what may be the least helpful title for one of the most helpful tools. Oh wow, Model Context Protocol. What a triumph of marketing malpractice. They took one of the most genuinely useful ideas in recent AI, giving models a standardized, persistent way to actually remember and build on what's happening in a long conversation, and slapped on an acronym so bland and meaningless, it could double as the name of a 1997 enterprise middleware product nobody remembers. MCP. Sounds like a dial-up modem protocol or a forgotten graphics card driver, or maybe the noise your boss makes when he's trying to sound technical in a meeting. Meanwhile, modern creative processing would have at least hinted that this thing helps models be less forgetful goldfish and more like actual creative partners. But no, we got Model Context Protocol, the acronym equivalent of naming your revolutionary new sports car transportation device V42. Truly bold, guys. Someone give the naming committee a participation trophy and a lifetime supply of beige. This paragraph was actually generated in a result of a snarky conversation I had with Grok about how bland all of these AI acronyms are. Okay, on a more serious note, MCP is really actually a standard. It is a protocol. MCP is what we use to do tool calling. When we ask Grok to elaborate on a news story or look up a stock price, it is making a tool call. It wasn't trained on what just happened. MCP is kind of like an API that AI agents can immediately understand. Or let's put it better. It helps the AI agent immediately understand how to properly speak to a given API. The most common metaphor I keep hearing is how it's like USB-C, a protocol for extending the capabilities of your laptop. The metaphor breaks down pretty quickly, but I think the immediate point is this. My laptop by itself cannot print out this slide. Plug, snap, click, now it can. With MCP, I don't need to understand the arcana of some rando API. I now don't even really need to ask Grok to explain it to me like I'm 5. Take this data, do the right thing with it. I can just say, take this, create me a record. Specifically, the Claris MCP gives an AI agent access to our solutions via the OData later and can figure out how to format the CRUD and execute our workflows. I think it's going to take a while for the implications to sink in. I'm still coming to new realizations every time I play with it. I thought of 8 things to add to this slide, but didn't this morning. But this is my main point. You don't just read about it. Don't just listen to others talk about it. Play with it. Put it into practice and watch how it changes how you interact with your solutions and how it changes how you build your next solution. It used to be, way back 5 months ago, that you had to configure the heck out of your MCP server instance. It would take several days sometimes even to create and tweak a huge pile of JSON needed to define your software package so that an LLM could drive and steer around your MCP tools. Claris has simplified a lot of that. By pointing their MCP server tool at your solution through the OData connector in your FileMaker server, it discovers the schema and scripting and creates for you all of the necessary tools. Then it provides you with GUI tools for fine-tuning, enabling and disabling tool calls, and adding further context to a given script to allow an LLM to properly pick the right tool for the right job. When you are done setting it up, and it took me about an hour in this case, you've pointed an agent to the Claris MCP server endpoint, you can now have your preferred AI agent be your UI. Now, I'm not going to walk you through all of the mechanics. We are not intending for this to be a how-to or a follow-along. And there are lots of excellent resources provided by Claris on how to get all this hooked up. And I'll refer to a few of them here. Now, those of you familiar with my snark know that I am not very complimentary on most documentation. However, I have found the ones that are up here to be pretty well done. I especially thought the Claris Community Live 4.1 event to be super helpful. So instead of a walkthrough, I just wanted to demonstrate how it works in an effort to answer the question why you should care. This is a diagram I pulled from one of those Claris articles.
What do you want to demonstrate?
That gives a broad overview of the architecture involved here. So a user, and that's me right there, speaks naturally to an AI agent about some task they want to accomplish, filling out a time card entry, looking up current sales objectives, inquiring about any new tickets assigned to me. The AI agent has no inherent knowledge of any of this, but it does have access to tools that it can use to answer those questions because it loaded into its context the model context for your solution via the Claris MCP server. It can now direct a create or a read, update or a delete, or execute call to your solution via the Claris MCP server to perform that task for you. So the Claris MCP server is only given access to the items in your solution that you choose for it to have. It is beholden to all the same permissions that are used to establish, that you're used to establishing via the security panel and FileMaker. And the Claris MCP server can further be restricted from certain actions via the MCP configuration panel you see here. In fact, in our demo, I've explicitly gone and told it that it can't delete anything. No reason to do that. Note, Claris MCP, not really any MCP server in general, does not store your data. It's not its point. It does not give just any agent or a LLM direct access to your schema or data, only those that you have given it the authorization to. So more on all this later. Claris got a lot of things right with this most recent MCP release. They simplified the setup and discovery of applicable schema. They maintained existing security and permissions methodology, and they vastly simplified the MCP configuration process. There's a few things, however, that I would like to see Claris improve on. I would like it to be local. Harmonic wants to be able to tell our clients all, only, ever, local and private, or private. This, not that I don't trust Claris, but I have customers that are simply not able to utilize a public server like this. I would like it to be shareable. I set up and configured the MCP server for this demo by logging into my Claris Studio account, but currently none of my team can see or edit this MCP. I would like to see some logging. We live and die sometimes by our FileMaker server log data. So when something goes not as planned, my first call is usually to go look through a log file somewhere. And flexibility, my kingdom for copy, paste, duplicate, and templating. Goodness. Yes, I know, I'm just being picky, but all right, now I'm going to hand the reins over to the rest of the team, but I first wanted to set the stage for the demo that we've cooked up. It is loosely based on some of the workflows of one of our customers, Nickels and Dimes. They operate a number of family entertainment centers. When I was a kid, I called them arcades, but now they are arcade, food, and entertainment centers. In addition to that, they operate a number of games located in open areas of various malls and shopping centers. These mostly fall under the category of crane or claw machines. They are coin operated and card operated. They kind of run on their own, but they need to be manually restocked, maintenanced, and cash and card revenues need to be obtained. So what would it look like to operate a route full of these coin operated machines? How could we build a system that would allow for a super flexible way for a user to report on revenue, inventory, and maintenance when given when servicing a given route? Well, let's just use FileMaker Server plus Claris MCP plus an AI agent to find out. So before we dive into that, though, I want to invite Anthony to give you guys some insight into the tooling and workflows for how we would deliver this solution. Most of the Claris MCP demos that you will see recommend using Claude desktop app and talking to a public Anthropic model of some sort. Harmonic has some alternate ways to attain the same results, but in a more private or local fashion. Take it away, Anthony.
And while you guys are here now, you can go.
Yep.
See, technical stuff. This is so exciting. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready. We good?
Sound good? Chris?
All right. Hi, everybody.
Wait, Chris?
I
Sound good?
I see the thumbs up from here.
Okay.
Yeah. You, yeah. There's a wall in your way, but I can see him.
There we go. Go ahead.
Good morning. You know, I strongly believe that your AI infrastructure and your data matter much more than you might think. I want to share why Harmonic has gone the route it has, not as the template to follow, but to open the door as to what's possible and start a conversation about what makes sense for you. Right now, it's really cheap and easy to get a big AI subscription for your business. Even Claris invites you to use their new MCP with Claude Desktop and public models. People just really don't have to think all that much about infrastructure. And that kind of concerns me. We're leaning more and more heavily on AI and LLMs and not stopping to think about what that really means. Heavy dependence on OpenAI and Anthropic will present itself as a larger and larger vulnerability to your business. From a monetary standpoint, what you get for your subscription is going to be thinned out. These companies can only afford to lose billions a year for so long. You heard me, billions. They'll look to profit by raising prices and clamping down harshly on usage. Just how much of a hit can your business afford to take when they decide to 2x, 10x, 100x their prices? Also, from a data perspective, feeding your business into the machine means you're training your future competitors. There's no secret that you're paying them for the privilege of handing over your information so that they can use that training data for the next generation of models. You have to consider, and that's not even getting into all the regulatory issues with sharing very sensitive data. So I want to invite you all to take some time to think about your infrastructure and take some control of your data. I'd like to do that by explaining kind of what we've done so far. We're running things in two places right now. In the cloud, we're using AWS Bedrock to serve models. It gives us access to larger models, faster compute for things like agentic workflows and demanding tasks, something that we can use without worrying about our data being used for training. I use it a lot personally because the larger models are better at things like tool calls, and I can feed them a lot of context, and it really doesn't break a sweat. In the office, we have a Mac Studio Ultra, a powerful little machine we use for all sorts of things, like running this production. For AI, we've used the MLX framework on the machine to fine-tune some models, and we're hosting LLMs through Llama CPP. It's nice having a machine in office because we don't have to worry about internet outages, and we can run long, computationally expensive tasks without worrying about data privacy and paying extra for compute. All of it is local. We're able to do things like vision-based tasks, process audio, and local models continue to get better every day. Now, Bedrock and Llama CPP aren't easy to use on their own. To make things convenient, we've set up a web UI called LibreChat connected both. It authenticates through our AD, and we've set up MCP tools for the company, like access to our ticketing system, and of course, the Claris MCP for interacting with FileMaker. Everything is accessible in one place. It's all self-hosted, and we're able to build out more tools for the entire company without a ton of setup. To demo our approach to LLMs and some of the capabilities of the Claris MCP, I'd like to welcome Brian onto the stage.
And then stand right over the X so that you just know where that is. All right?
Gotcha.
Got it? Say something.
Say something.
Yeah, there we go.
How's that?
Good sound, Chris? All right. Go ahead.
All right. So thank you, Anthony. This segment's going to be a little more hands-on, but I want to set things up a little bit and give you a quick reminder about what we're doing. So this is the kind of chat most of us are familiar with. General purpose models are great, but they don't know anything about your database, as Matt alluded to. An MCP server provides your model with a deeper understanding of your tables and scripts. And so with MCP, it looks a little more like this. The model is off having its own chat with your MCP server and combines that with its own massive training set. Ergo, responses are much more helpful. And you get all of this without a RAG, no vector embeddings, no regression training, none of that. So let's imagine a scenario where AI has taken my software engineering job. So I'm blasting out resumes, getting hard to imagine, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sending out resumes, I'm getting ghosted by recruiters, it's awesome. So I end up taking a job stocking vending machines, soft drinks. Cokes, if you're from Texas, soda, if you're from up north. So what would some of my tasks be for a job like this? Well, it would involve routes, locations, vending machines, of course. I'd want to report the revenue data back to the database at some point. And occasionally I might need to file a maintenance ticket. And maybe I've never even heard of FileMaker. I'm just a soda guy. So my company gave me this chat bot. They said it's going to use MCP, so whatever that means. All right, so the way this works at a really high level is we have a database.
Chris is getting the audio back up. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for being a fantastic presenter who gets all the interruptions.
Do we know where I will need to go back to?
Would be useful to know.
I do not know where you will need to go back. I do want you to back up a little bit. I mean, we're getting secondary recordings here, but for the people that are away. All right, here you go, Tim. John didn't tell me where he was listening to. It must have been YouTube.
We just lost it for like 30 seconds. Just have it back up.
Oh, okay, so
Like a paragraph or something.
Yeah, yeah.
back up a couple paragraphs
Okay.
and go for it.
All right, so where do these tools get defined exactly? Well, this happens in the Claris AI workspace. You start there by creating a context, and that's going to result in a few things. Some of those you'll get for free. Other bits you'll need to fill out yourself. One of the things that you get for free is a config JSON object. It's a pretty simple object, but importantly, it contains the URL for your model and an auth token, so pretty typical API stuff. Then back in your model, you'll copy and paste this config JSON somewhere in your developer settings. If any of you have used ChatGPT or Claude to help manage your calendar or your email, it works exactly like that. So once you've made this connection, the model then can read your table schema, and it's going to generate some tools for you. One set of the tools will be for CRUD operations, so creating, editing, deleting records, and so forth. These tools are ready to go out of the box, but it's also going to generate a set of tools based on your scripts, and this is the part that you'll need to finish out. So the Input Schema tab is where you go to define a tool's properties or parameters. Property name, the data type, whether it's required or optional. For the description, we're basically just prompt engineering here. So just give it something helpful, and the model will know better than how and when to use that particular tool. So let's do a chat and try this out. I'm going to make 5 or 6 requests in the chat. First, I'll ask the model about which tools I have available. I'll ask it to fetch my routes. Once I arrive on site, I'll have it help me locate the machine that I need to service. I'll submit a revenue report back to the database, and I'll file a maintenance report. And so I'm going to exit into a chat here.
Screen's frozen.
Can you guys see that? Yep. There we go. Sweet. All right, so this is a Libra chat that Anthony was talking about earlier. Up here at the top, we've got our Claude Opus 4.6 private model hosted with AWS Bedrock. We connected to our routes database with Claris MCP, and we are ready to chat. So I'm the new guy at this vending machine job, and right now I don't even know what I can do with this thing yet, so let's ask it. Oh, let's get in the right window, then we can ask it. What tools are available? This is live, so prayers are appreciated. We didn't record this. So, welcome aboard BHAM. I get a welcome message even. It's going to give me a list of all the tools that are available and some the ways that I could use those when they'd be appropriate. So super helpful. Let me say my username is BHAM, but I forgot my user ID number. No worries. All right. So it's going to call a tool real quick, and it has reported back that my user employee ID number is 10002. So great. Now I know it's available. I've got my username. Let's go ask it about my routes. What are my routes? make a couple of tool calls here. Got my routes. They're formatted, easy to read table. This is exactly what I want. So 2 things to note here. One, it remembered who I am from the previous request. And second, I'm not writing a SQL query. I'm not the one making the API call here. It's super casual chat. There's no syntax. But the models are really good at inference. And so we can talk to it the same way we could talk to a manager or a coworker. So I've arrived on site at one of these. Where is the, I'm just going to copy this rather than type it. Machine located. Going to run a tool call. So I've got directions, I've got placement, name of the machine, serial number, and so forth. I even have a map for Google Maps. So this is great. So let's get this cheddar and report our revenue back to the database. At the machine, want to make a revenue report. This time, though, this is not a simple query. This is a little more defined, right? We can still chat casually about it, but we need to provide certain parameters here. Some of these data points are going to be required by the tool. If we omit any of those data points and the model can't infer it, it's going to follow up with us. So we'll have some back and forth until it has everything it needs in order to execute the tool call. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it I need to make this revenue report. This is pretty quick. This is live, not waiting very long. It's not, like some of the thinking models. I've got some, let's see, route. It's asking me which route. So I'm just having a conversation with it. I'm not having to be formal or, any kind of particular structure. So it's just needs the numbers from me. So it's giving me an example about what it needs. So I'm going to say cash. We'll say $50, card revenue, I don't know, $20, sales, what is that, 70? So we'll just make it easy. That's just units. And then any comments. And comments are optional. I'm going to go ahead and put one in here, though. Kind of proud of my first revenue report. First rev report. Felt cute. Might delete later. Okay. So it's going to go off and do that for us. There we go. So, it's going to ask me to confirm, which is nice. So we've got our summary here. I'm going to say sure. That looks great. Execute a tool call. And my revenue report has been filed. So let's go hop over to FileMaker and prove that we created this record. Go ahead and just do a find on my username. I've got 5. I was submitting these earlier as practice. And here's the most recent revenue report. As you can see, that's the one we just created with the tool call. So we'll hop back over to our chat. Let's go ahead and ask it, what are my sales for the month? Get some summary data.
There isn't a script for that, right? There isn't a script for that.
I don't believe there is, actually. It's gonna figure it out.
Yep.
It's gonna use multiple tool calls to figure that out. So we're up to 2, 3. there's a little more going on. We've got to traverse a number of tables. 4, and I believe it takes 5 for this, if I'm not mistaken. So it's busy doing the thing. I think it should be done here at this point. There we go. Summary for sales for the current week period, which it knows I didn't tell it that, but it figured all this out. We've got our monthly totals. Even gives me some suggestions. I'm missing reports for routes 6 and 7, and that we're currently in week 10, so still part of the context, right? So very efficient. Nope. I'm going to say this route, I'm going to say Cokes. Sold, I don't know, 20. Added, filled it back out. Dr. Pepper. Sold, I don't know, 15. Added, didn't have quite enough to refill it all the way. Added 10 back. Got an optional comment. No love for RC Cola. Oops. Question. So I believe I've given it everything it's looking for here. Let me file both merch reports for you at the same time. And I get my summary. It's updated my inventory. It's even laughing at my jokes, which is fantastic. So I don't want to restock anything else. That was, we're pretty much done here, but before I leave the machine, I noticed the cabinet light flickering, and one of the buttons is janky.
We'll figure that out. It's a technical term.
It is, very. And I didn't tell it I need to make a maintenance request here. I just said, machine works, but it's janky. It's got some problems. Knows what location and machine I'm talking about. I can file a maintenance report for you. Just confirm a couple of things. That all looks good. Do it. So we're going to call a tool. What if that revenue data was in Excel? I could have uploaded that Excel spreadsheet file to the chat instead. Matt actually did this a couple days ago when we were, preparing for the presentation. So as long as the comment or the column names rather match on the spreadsheet, or they're close enough for the model to infer it, absolutely can use that. I could probably even have used a photo of a handwritten note. Claude Opus is a vision model, right? So if the note had enough visual structure to it, pretty good chance that would work just as well. Other examples, I could make a tool call to Google Maps API. I could return directions, drive time. I could return a link that launches Apple Maps on a user's iPhone. I could use it to clock in, clock out, log my mileage. I could think of 100 ways probably to use MCP with our customers and in-house. And hopefully, I've opened up your mind to some of those possibilities as well. So thank you.
All right.
Yes.
No questions? Not yet. Thank you all very much. They don't need to hear this. We are now going to switch to a question and answer time period. So if you could hold just a moment as we reset our stage. Go ahead. Sir? We're not done yet. Got to change your camera. I'm going to invite our speakers to come and up to the front now. Chris, are the audience mics up? Everybody say hello.
Hello.
Very good. Hello. The stage mics up.
I'm here.
Great. Now we are open for questions.
Right. Taylor.
Question, did you guys do much with adding additional comments about fields to better describe it, or how to help the model understand what the different fields do, or were your comments just blank?
So there's a couple of different ways to answer that. One is inside of FileMaker, when you have the description on a field, right, when you're defining fields, I did add some comments to some of that, and then I didn't in others. And when I was inspecting the JSON payload from MCP server, it doesn't reference that. So it doesn't matter.
And Louis said they're gonna add that.
Okay.
They haven't yet.
Right.
They're gonna make it so that the comment in the schema auto-populates
Yeah.
into the MCP server, but that's a near future feature.
Right. But further down the line, when you're in the MCP server, you can pop up that tool and inspect its report on your tables and columns, and you can add that information. I didn't on any of the tables. I did on the scripts. And the reason why I did on the scripts is because of the way we phrase things, right? Restock, there's no restock field in the table, right? It just simply says, merchandise amount or something like that. So I went and I added words and vernacular to the script parameters to kind of give the model a little bit of a hint of what is required and what is needed. To actually further double click on that, you can tell it certain script parameters are required, right? The user ID, super important, is required, right? But what if you're doing a situation where I don't want the user ID, I don't always know the user ID, maybe I know my login name. And so maybe what's required is either the user ID or my username. Well, you can't put required on both because it would then require both. So what I did was I didn't mark them as required, but I, in the description, said in both places, either the user ID or the username is required. I put that in both places. So the model now knows I got to go find one of those two things. The script itself, of course, goes and looks, and if it finds one, it infers the other, and it spits back a complaint if you don't do it. But yeah, so you can add that kind of detail, and it's important sometimes. Shoot, Mike.
All three of you mentioned that it's off premises, so it's a two-part question now. First, what's the timeline so that you can put the power on premises and encrypted? And secondly, is there a multi-layer authentication model if you wanted to give your customer routing information on when the delivery is there?
So for the first question, what I'm hearing is, I don't know. Timeline. So you're asking about when are we going to be able to install an MCP server on-prem. There are other MCP server technologies that today you can install. You can go to modelcontextprotocol.io, I think, and download one and configure it yourself. And that does take some amount of time to basically manually type out all that JSON because it's not going to do the business of looking at your FileMaker solution and auto-populating all that for you. That solution, Claris MCP, they have said we're looking into it. And so they are very aware that everyone wants it. At this point, I would even argue people are screeching for it. So I hope that that turns up the heat a little bit, and maybe we'll just send them a copy of this recording and say, "My cast, where's it at?" Because I would love it. I mean, I would absolutely. I would have demoed on that if it was available today, because that would be our preferred rollout. But you were saying, what was the part B of your question?
Well, if you have to go to a public internet, I don't want my customers to have their information exposed. So if you have to have multiple level authentication before it would say, when do you, Brian Hamill, here's your user ID.
Right.
I saw that and I went, oh my God.
Sure, yeah.
I'd want to have multiple level authentication pop you back to your cell phone or something, is this you?
Right.
Before I gave you that answer.
And I
You do it
agree.
with AD, I believe, authenticating with the individual accounts,
Yeah,
as far as that goes,
yeah.
for Lever Chat.
I agree. Certain corners were cut just to make the demo fit inside this. So, that is a great example. I could have said, my name is Steve Sikora. What are my earnings for last week?
Well,
A follow-up question to what the first part of your answer is when I played with those MCP models, I was playing with them very cursory, not like you guys are. But it occurred to me pretty quickly that if you sent them a bunch of related Excel spreadsheets, then you could get them to work much easier. So if we transfer right now our FileMaker data, you export to Excel, and Excel you'd encrypt, and then you could do it that way.
Yeah.
With those models.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I even created an Excel spreadsheet of, a bunch of revenue reports, and I screenshot it and sent it to them. And
it worked.
Yeah, it worked. So.
To get back to the authentication point a little bit, how the Claris MCP works is that it uses FileMaker credentials to talk to FileMaker. So as a layer of security, you definitely want a user's MCP to be associated to their user so that they only have access to their records, whatever tables that user has access to. That way, you can add a FileMaker script or something that is essentially what's my user, and if you ask the LLM what's my user, it'll use FileMaker functions to get that data.
But I don't want to have my customers getting access to my FileMaker. I want to give them reports on that. Let's say we have customer tickets going back 25 years in FileMaker, 21 years. 21 years in FileMaker. And so I can get a history internally of what happens with different functions and systems and different problems. But my customers might want to see, okay, this is the failure rate in this rack for the last 5 years. We have that information, but how would I give that information to a customer and not let it get out there on MCP? I mean, I can't give 100,000 people credentials and manage them. That would be a full-time job.
That would be, yep. And right now, that's kind of the limitation we're at. There isn't a way to get credentials in a session like that and pass those through on a per instance basis. It's like you have to set up the connection to do that, and that's a limitation of Claris MCP, and that's you would hope that they would roll something out like that because other MCP servers have it. So you would hope that they would roll something out like that soon.
Is the, just kind of thinking through this for the first time, if I understand correctly, Claris MCP generates a token that we give to the client, and that's how the client, in our case LibreChat, is able to authenticate with Claris MCP.
Right.
Then Claris MCP is using a specific user account with FileMaker, our FileMaker file.
Yes.
And so any interaction that we're having with the FileMaker file is using that Claris MCP user account.
That is correct.
And so if we wanted that to be truly individual, one person is one account, we'd essentially have to set up a unique context per person. So we'd have to think through, what's the amount of data that we're exposing, that we're comfortable with exposing, and are we okay with that being you know, all users or a specific set of user roles, or,
Right.
you know, how granular do you want to be? Whereas we can't set up one MCP server and say, hey, pass through authentication,
Right.
and then enforce the permissions of what was passed through. That's the missing thing.
That's missing today.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
To give it a different context, we use UTrack internally as a project management tool. We have set up there is an MCP server for that product, and the way it works is I go into Libra Chat and I go to connect to that MCP server, which is a generic piece of information. It's just a URL, and then it says, what is your user token? Well, I have to go into UTrack and create for myself a user token and supply it. Now it knows that I'm talking to it, and I can't say, my name is Steve, what are my tickets? It's gonna say, no, your name is not Steve. I know exactly who you are, this is your token. That would be nice if that was available today, but it's not available today in Claris.
Yeah, well, not built in, because you could just theoretically set up a bunch of scripts to do that, right? Like, have a users table maintained, create tokens for that users, for the users, and give it to folks to use to query their data. And then you have subsequent scripts that use that as a filter to data without having to like kind of setting up users within the FileMaker file, but like you could potentially brute force a token, similar to how like you could brute force a password or something. So
Yeah, so it's not baked in, you can
Users table,
kind of roll your
permissions
own,
table.
yeah,
but it would be nice
With-
if it was
yeah.
part of the product, so. There.
I have a question that gets at the why we care, I think. Can you share, if you're willing, how many hours were spent building this, the solution that Brian demonstrated? And how would you compare that to the hours that we're now not gonna get paid for building a custom solution with like custom web pages and you know, to do the same work?
So, I will answer the first part, because I built the file and the scripts, so.
Which is notable in and of itself. You're not on the database team.
I am not. I am not, and I will.
That's good script hygiene.
I will
comments.
readily admit that as much as you can vibe code FileMaker, I vibe coded those scripts to figure some things out, because I'm like, I don't even know how to do this, and at the time Steve was out of town, so I'm like, I don't, you know, I'm just gonna ask Rock, and it actually got, you know, 90% there. But so it took me about a day to basically create all the tables and the fields and the relationships that I wanted to. I even cleaned them up and colorized them because I knew you would look at that and say. And then I wrote, what was it, 8 scripts or 9 scripts or something like that. So it took me about a day. Actually, I was in the car being driven to my daughter's gymnastics meet, and I did it in that long trip from here to Lubbock. So then it took me about an hour and change when I sucked it into the MCP server at Claris to kind of notate things in a way that I felt like I liked the responses I was getting. And so, yeah, I mean, so call it day and a half of working and tweaking. So, yes, I would say that normally when you go and you create buttons, and that's the other thing about that chart, it's super clean. I know that we do all kinds of very creative things by creating a relationship to you know, extended tables and things so that we can do neat things with the UI and all that. And so it's free of a lot of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I would even argue if you were going to do MCP on a given solution, you might actually want to create a separate file and suck over just the table occurrences and make it really clean and point the MCP, the Claris MCP at that.
Right.
That way it's not tripping all over the, you know, 800 instances of something. But yes, so I didn't spend any time on the GUI at all. And no, then if this was for a client, I would not have then billed and gotten paid for that. I understand that. One would hope, though, that the client would find utility in getting that to them faster, and that there's a subset of their population that now can be serviced by how quickly that got put out, and you know, now my job as a developer is not just sitting in front of GUI panels in FileMaker Pro, but I now am a prompt engineer. So I'm going to go, because you know the manager wanted a report and he asked for it in vernacular that makes sense to an accountant but no one else, and so I need to tweak the prompts and make the system understand that, right? So I don't see this replacing the the jobs that we were doing before. I see it making things faster. I see it being a workflow that is potentially usable in certain circumstances, not all circumstances, and I see it being us being able to deliver things faster. That's kind of how I look at it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, because I mean, I definitely see it as a productivity increase. Like, you definitely don't want the the LLM to just do whatever it can. There's certain things that are like workflow driven. So I'm filing a report, we're putting data into fields, and we definitely want to do some field validations, like the ID should exist, and the user that is doing the report should be who they say
So
they
if
are.
I understand correctly, it's not just doing the AI job of figuring out what it is you really need to have happen in the background on your behalf based on your human speak, but it's limiting its actions to that which you have defined for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. So
Yeah.
it can't just go, like you were saying, Matt, if it doesn't have a table that what you're asking for really suggests, it's gonna give you an alternate suggestion of where you can put that information, because it can't just go like add a table of its own and
Yeah.
do that kind of stuff on its own.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
can't do that.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet, I must say, maybe we will.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, it's
I mean,
it's
ODAT
really,
will let you do, you know, yeah.
if you're paying any sort of attention at all
there's some things,
about
we
what
don't want
folks are doing with LLMs and stuff, like there are constant horror stories about people giving full access to their databases with LLMs, and then like, I'm awesome, I gave my LLM full access to my database, I built the solution in 2 hours. Next day, so does anybody have, does anybody know how to like recover databases? It dropped every table and.
Roll back,
What are we supposed to do here?
I remember a story where somebody,
Yeah.
where somebody got a traffic ticket or had to file something with to pay a traffic ticket or something with the city, and they used like drop table or something in the form submission, and it supposedly did it. I don't know if that's old wives' tale or not.
And I mean,
Too accommodating.
there's also like, some things are better just as a, GUI with buttons, and like, you don't necessarily want to make every workflow like through text, through human speech. It is sometimes just easier to see a big old table with a button that is accept and reject, and like click accept, reject.
Well, I just so happened to have watched some of Spider-Man 2 last night, and the villain is a guy who had AI-driven like arms attached to him, and it did not go well.
Noted.
So, we were using Claude Opus hosted in Bedrock.
Yes.
Could we have done this, I mean, it wouldn't have been identical, obviously, given the probabilistic nature and the difference in models, but could we have used a local model hosted on our machine with Claris MCP server as it sits today? And what would the differences have been?
We tried Nova at one point, which is also Bedrock, but just a different model from Amazon. And so the responses that came back were generally the same, sort of at their core, but what came back was not formatted as tables. It wasn't
Wasn't as
it didn't
nice.
feel like a conversation. It wasn't as useful. And so using Claude was in that case,
Yeah,
was,
and
gave us
and
better
early
responses.
on when I was playing with it, I used, we have a copy of Quinn hosted on that Mac Studio, so I told LibreChat to use that. And it got some pretty good answers and was a little bit slower than the massive server farm they have there at AWS land. What I didn't necessarily like about the Quinn was that some of the inferences and recalling of tools was a lot more wordy. And so what took, 5 calls to answer the question of how many
summary.
sales did I give
Sure,
or whatever
yeah.
it was, it took the Quinn about 8 or 9 and it kind of recalled several times, which was kind of curious. And so, I for the purpose of the demo, just went with the one that was fastest.
Yep.
But yes, we did use Quinn on there. I had considered pulling one of the GPT models in to see how well it did, but I just once we landed on Claude being pretty good at this particular tool calling thing, I just kind of honed in on it.
So now, so the Claris MCP server though, in the cloud somewhere, I mean, we know it's in AWS based on Claris's
In the West Coast.
alignment.
Yeah.
But in the cloud somewhere, if it's talking to a server on-prem, we've got to what? We got to open up access via firewall, it's a webhook, like how does it work?
No,
How does that
Because
work?
so
that's not the direction of the call.
Ah.
Yeah, do you want to?
yeah, so the call happens from whatever your client is.
Because LibreChat's talking here first.
Yes,
Okay.
LibreChat is talking to the LLM, wherever that may be. And when it goes and uses a tool call, it initiates it from the LibreChat server. So because Claris MCP is cloud hosted only, it needs to go then and reach out to Claris's servers to then talk to FileMaker servers. Now, if we had a self-hosted version, then the chat client can then talk to that self-hosted version, talk to self-hosted FileMaker, and get back data from FileMaker, and then we'd be running entirely locally.
Okay, so last kind of detangling there then, if I've got a local FileMaker server, and by the way, was this in our AWS space, or where was this FileMaker server?
It was in our AWS space. Yeah,
Okay.
It was our.
So, but our AWS space, has a firewall and it's locked down, it's not publicly accessible. What did we have to do to let Claris MCP talk to that server?
Port 443.
Okay,
Turn on OData, turn on
Data
Data API,
and that's where, before it's gonna be able to talk, we also have to add the user to the file
And I
as
had to
well,
add-
cause
yeah.
it's gotta authenticate in.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
You had to turn on the data API or just OData?
it's both.
You need both.
Yeah, cause there's a couple things that OData doesn't support yet, that they're still dependent on the data API for, like specifically images, and then I think it's
Scripts.
script calling.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've said they want to get there, but
In
they
the
can't do
chat,
it with OData yet.
Okay.
yeah, in the chat, for thinking models, when it, you notice it would say thinking, periodically, while I was working everything out, you can expand those and you can see what, at least a little bit of what gets sent back and forth. And a lot of that's just payload stuff, FileMaker table IDs, field IDs. But there's also filters, and you'll notice that sometimes the sort of payload or the structure of what gets sent or what's in that thinking block looks a lot like OData, because it is OData, and other times it looks more like Data API. So
Yeah.
that's interesting. I actually skipped over that. I was intending to show you guys that.
Pop out and go control.
Switch back to mirror.
Yes.
Left button. No,
Yeah,
Okay,
so
I'd like to pause everybody for a second here. We are 5 minutes past. Keep going.
Yep.
There is food that's arrived, and window washing is going to begin. So
lovely.
interior window
Wait
washing
for
will
that.
be beginning on that side of the office, so hopefully we'll be done over here by the time he comes down this way. So.
we have an audience out here, we have an audience out here. That'd be great. Yeah, so this is one of the thinking blocks for filing the maintenance report, which returns a script result in that case. There's another one that I think I believe it was one of these. Yeah, this multi-tool call. Yeah, so this one, if anybody here has used OData, this will look very like something you've seen before. The syntax, because this is an OData filter syntax. It's exactly what you would put in the $filter, parameter in an OData call. The FileMaker table IDs get returned as a result. Did you mention that at one of our other FMPugs? I don't remember.
I don't think we have.
This is sort of a more recent phenomenon that comes back that can be enabled. So when you do an OData call, you can have it return the ID number of a table, and you can have it return IDs for fields as well. So if you have built something and you've got it in production, but you need at some point to change the name of a table, which would be terrible, or a field, that would, if you're calling it that way, everything's going to break.
But that number persists.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, this kind of syntax is what the local models or the open source models are having a little bit of trouble doing. That's why it takes more tool calls to do it. So you can definitely get away with using a smaller and local model, but you do have to also provide it way more context as to how to run these tools properly, because otherwise it's just going to keep making up syntax for like the filter or whatever else.
Yeah, I was giving it really, really short prompts, I need to restop.
And I mean, it will get better over time. Matt mentioned Quen that we're playing with. Quen 3.5 just came out, and it's a lot better at tool calls than 3 was. So I expect that they'll keep working to improve tool calls, and we'll be able to get away with running less.
Quick question. Until field comments are added to the schema that gets, sucked in by the MCP, you mentioned, Matt, that you can add those comments, but let's say you have, like most of our systems are, they're living and growing, so you have a new build, you've got a new copy of the file, and there have been additional things, you want that to go into the MCP as well. Is that going to replace what you had and you lose your comments, you gotta add them back?
If you use,
Or-
I don't know.
Okay.
My thought is that what might actually end up happening is when you, do you have that, oh, it's another tab, one of the voluminous tabs we have. My thought is that when it pulls information in from your server, because you have created a context, let's make sure we're not on theirs, but on ours, there we go. When you create a new context, and then when you create a new connection, and I can't do that because I'm not in edit mode, but when you create that new connection, it's going to re-pull. And I think it's probably not going to replace just automatically. I think it's like once you create that connection, it pulls what's there right now.
Okay.
So a new build would probably mean a new connection, probably mean a new token that you had to distribute. So Taylor.
Have they worked out their site license thing in my Claris ID yet, so that the people that have site licenses aren't still screwed?
I am the absolute worst person to talk about licensing or how Claris does things like that, because I just simply go, and then I ask Fred. So,
Brad?
ISS has a site license and we've got all access to everything with them. So that would be anecdotally, yes, but I don't specifically know for sure.
Which
Good,
part of the
good.
license?
I like to hear that, if it's now working.
which licenses offer access to this MCP?
Right.
Oh, okay,
So-
yeah, no, I don't.
Site licenses and
Site-
SBA were the only ones that were a problem. And
Yeah.
maybe they
And
fixed it now.
it's not SBA. SBA is no. I heard that on
Okay.
CCL,
Yeah, okay.
but I think site license is yes.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go tackle it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
Any questions from the field, Paul?
No.
All right.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for that applause. Now we got recordings of applause.
We'll just fix that.
Yes.
Fire hose at you.
It'll be
Track
for both
and
home
play
screen.
from home.
Thanks again,
Taylor, there's a card.